Okay, this might be the last update I do on this particular story right here, and this should shock absolutely no one. Now, this is a story that I remember talking about around the time when it first occurred, or somewhere around when it was still a fresh story. But if you see the two pictures right here, well, one, you can already tell that the one on the right is just straight up wicked just by looking at his face. But on the one on the left, he was the young man that he was the military vet who had a actual mental illness in which he left out of his house and he was completely butt naked, like walking down the street. Like there's actual footage of him walking outside naked. Of course, they had to blur out the obvious parts for news consumption. And he was completely unarmed. Like when you're naked like that, you have no clothing on, nothing. And he was killed by this pig right here, whose name is Robert Chip Olson. And his defense was he feared for his life. I'm trying to figure out how in the hell someone can be in fear of their life when someone is completely naked. However, that could be used in the incident that just recently happened a couple months ago with that palm colored male who was running around there half naked, and he literally was able to terrorize people after he just killed a few people and almost killed somebody else. And he's busy running around chasing them, and they got guns, and they not once shot a trigger, not once pulled that trigger to kill him. But this guy was killed. And he was a military vet. I want to know where all these so-called patriotic people are going to be at sound off about this. But the reason why I'm bringing it up now is because the usual happened. This man was found not guilty of felony murder when he killed Anthony Hill. Now, this happened back in 2015, March 2015. Now, I don't think I was really making videos at the time, but I vaguely remember the story. It says a DeKalb County jury has found ex-DeKalb County police officer Robert Chip Olson not guilty of felony murder. Olson shot and killed Anthony Hill in March 2015, who was naked and unarmed at a DeKalb County apartment complex. Olson was found guilty of aggravated assault, violation of oath, and making a false statement. Those are pretty much all misdemeanor charges. What has been at the center of a trial is if Olson had a reasonable fear for his safety when he shot Hill. Hill, who had stopped taking medication for his mental illness, stripped naked outside his Chamblee apartment complex. Olson arrived at the scene at 1 p.m., responding to the 3911 calls from the manager and the complex. The 6-count indictment against Olson, age 57, included 2 charges of felony murder, which carried a maximum sentence of life in prison. It says Channel 2's Lauren Davis was there as the verdict was read in court. She describes a dramatic reaction to the verdict when the officer's wife had to be escorted out on Channel 2 Action News. I'm sorry about that. That's the news clip that came up. It's for something else. It says Hill's mother was wiping away tears as Olson was found not guilty of murder. What? I don't know why this keeps popping up on my phone. Sorry about that. Let me just go ahead and mute the phone. It says the state wanted Olson to go to jail, stating he's a convicted felon, so they had a hearing for his bond, calling Hill's mother to the stand. It's been 4 years waiting. My son isn't here and he's been out. It's time now. Davis spoke to a juror who was one of the 5 jurors holding out for felony murder verdict. He didn't want his face shown, but said he had to compromise because he didn't want a hung jury. 1 and 2 are what I wanted. So when I thought another jury get selected, I got another teammate to agree with me to do just 3 through 6, the juror said. The verdict came after 27 hours of deliberation, and the district attorney was pleased with their job. I respect this jury, and I'm glad they deliberated thoughtfully and came to the decision they thought best. Despite the guilty verdicts, many supporters of Hill told Channel 2 Action News they feel justice was not served. And it wasn't, because he got found guilty of lesser charges. He didn't get the one that he was supposed to get, which was the murder conviction. And the thing is, they're trying to frame it as if the family and the public should be okay with that. They always feel like we should just be okay with these lesser charges just because it has the guilty attached to it. Look at what happened with the Amber Geiger thing. She got convicted of actual murder and got only 10 years. But you know, that was a 3-ring circus right there. I felt the ones he is most guilty of came back as not guilty, a protester said. We're hopeful that a maximum sentence will be handed down for the shooting which caused the death of Anthony Hill. Another protester said Olson will be sentenced on November 1st. Now, they said that the one that they wanted to get him on carried a sentence of life in prison, but that was the one he was found not guilty on. Now, we don't know what the sentencing will be for the other charges he got, but I don't expect it to be anything more than 20 years. If that. All I can hope is that this family is not on this forgiveness train like that other family. From now on, we're just going to have to refer to them as the other family. I don't want to mention their name right now. But this is America right here. Like the song says, this is America, where a black man who actually has an actual mental illness can strip down naked in his apartment complex, and instead of asking is he okay and if he needs some kind of help, he gets shot dead because this motherfucker right here actually had a fear so-called of his life. And apparently black men, when we're stripped down naked and we're walking around aimlessly and like not a care in the world and look like we're completely lost, dazed, and confused, we are completely how can I put it? We are a boogeyman even when we're butt naked. Apparently, this man had a whole fear of his life of a man who had no clothing on him. Which means he had no way to conceal a weapon whatsoever. Yet you had that maniac running around literally half naked or completely. No, wasn't he naked? All around chasing police officers who had actual military style weapons in their arsenal and attacking random people and killing like one or two people, and he still gets taken in alive. Make it make sense. It's blatantly in your face. It's blatantly obvious. We have always been their target. And then they got the nerve to sit up there. And when I say they, I'm talking about Palm Colored Collective, to sit up there and act like they are the primary targets of these attacks. You can get the entire fuck out of my face with that bullshit. This is the establishment we live in, where pieces of shit like this can actually get off on major convictions for killing someone who was completely unarmed, had no clothes on, and clearly was not in their right state of mind. And they leave out the fact that this man was in the military. All I could think of is those pictures of him and his parents when he was graduating from basic training. But you ain't going to hear the patriotic palm-colored crowd talk about that. But they want to talk about they bleed red, white, and blue. Half of them don't even go to the VA. Hell, some of them probably never been or know where their closest one is. But we'll see what happens when that sentencing comes down on November 1st. Am I surprised by this verdict of him not getting the major conviction? No. So they said, well, we'll just give him the other convictions, to satisfy the people. Let me tell you something right now. Y'all must not know black people very well in 2019, because this does not satisfy me. I'm sure it doesn't satisfy the family or anybody else who has been following this case since it happened 4 years ago. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this down in the comments, and I will talk to you in the next one.